Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I created this sea glass mosaic flower garden on this vintage window. Now this is part one in a three-part series, so join me for my next two videos when I'll show you how I did each of the other two panes until I have the window complete. So I have this bathroom in my new house that doesn't have any windows because it's in a basement. So I thought, why not add a window? So I'm going to take this old vintage window that I have and cover it with sea glass and hang it in my bathroom. And I think it will be like a fake window, but at the same time, it'll add something nice to the decor. And I'm thinking whimsical flowers might work. A 3-pane window with 3 really stately flowers might look kind of cool. So this window measures 25 inches wide, 25 inches tall and 27 inches wide. So I think it's a good size for this bathroom. So I have these doorknobs that I've used on my bathroom vanity, and I just love them. They're all a little bit different, and they all have this blue color in them that is very beachy-like, and one of them broke, so it doesn't have any backing on it. So I thought I'm going to use that for the center of my middle flower in the sea glass window that I'm going to create. This is not sea glass, but it's broken. It would otherwise end up in the garbage, so it's fair game. And it'll help tie in my window with my bathroom decor. So I spent quite a bit of time prepping for this sea glass mosaic by going through my sea glass collection and picking out a bunch of triangular shaped pieces that will make really good flower petals, because I'm hoping to make a bit of a flower garden. I picked out a lot of white triangles and green ones and aqua ones, all sorts of ones that I think will make good flowers, because I'm hoping to make a bit of a flower garden here. And I've got 2 trays of triangular shaped pieces, so I'm all set and ready to go. The other thing that's really important are the centers. So I know I want this piece right in the center, and I've picked out some of my biggest white pieces for this central flower, because this is my most important flower, the one right in the middle of the piece. And I want to get this one kind of set in place first. So I start with the focal point in this one. And then the other thing that I've done is I've taken some rocks, glued rocks on top of rocks to make other flower centers. And I'll just kind of set those around on my just on my frame here to get myself oriented. Here's one where I've glued 3 roundish rocks together, and then I think that will make a good flower center as well. And sometimes I find setting those flower centers out, I know I want a couple of flower centers on the other parts of the mosaic as well. So I like to put flower centers out, and then I can form flowers around those. So now that I've got all my pieces laid out, I know I can just kind of work another flower in there. Because when I'm making a flower bed like this, I like to arrange the pieces so that one flower kind of fits into the crux of the other flower. And if you have quite a few laid out, you can kind of use that as your guide for doing a whole bunch of interlocking flowers. Now I need a good center for this one too. I like to use rocks or a different color of sea glass. I find that blue is often a really good color for some of those flower centers. But if you can focus on creating flowers centers and flower petals, they're all going to come together. So when I go to glue these on, I know that I don't want my center flower to move. So before I go much further, I'm going to glue this in place. So these are big pieces. Big pieces need more silicone. Small piece, a little bit of silicone. Big piece, quite a bit. And so I want to put that there. So you'll notice that I don't have a pattern in place for this mosaic because I want it to be really free-flowing. But the one piece that I do want to make sure is centered is this focal point right here. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure. I have 7.5 inches there, so I know that I want my center, the center of that to be at 3 3/4. And I eyeballed it pretty good because it is centered right there. The distance down doesn't matter as much because it is toward the top of this pane of glass, but I am concerned about having that centered. So now I can go ahead and start gluing on the other flower petals around my flower. I'll get these big pieces in place and then I can fit all my other flowers in around it. So as I'm filling in the background for my flower, this is my main flower, but the background is all flowers. So I haven't done anything except flowers. So if I look here in my background, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and now I'm working on my 13th flower. And it's all just filling in the background with flowers. And because I did my work ahead of time with picking out a whole bunch of petal-looking pieces of sea glass, I'm all set for going on this flower garden. A few things to keep in mind is scale. So the scale of this one is big, and then I want to really vary my scale. So I have a couple of really tiny flowers, some medium-sized flowers, but they're all different sizes. The other thing to keep in mind is color. So I have 3 green ones, I have 3 aqua ones, the rest are all white. And I also want some consistency in my centers. So I have 3 blue centers, I have some white rocks here, I've got 3 of these purple shells. Oh, what do you call them? I'm blanking on the name of those. If you know the name of those, would you please post it in the comments? Because I can't remember what you call those purple shells. So now I want to put one stem down this main flower. I'm not going to put a stem on every single flower, but I do want to have a really strong stem going down my primary flower here. So I'm just going to use brown sea glass and arrange it in a way that looks very stem-like. I'll just put a bunch of pieces of sea glass in place and then I'm going to arrange them after I get them in place to go in order of smallest to biggest so that it ends somewhat bigger on the bottom. And for this I like to use kind of rectangular shaped pieces of sea glass because I find they can make very strong looking stems. And I've also picked out a few green pieces that look like tiny little leaves coming off the stem. So I'll stick a few of those on there as well. So I'll fuss with those quite a bit before I glue them into place. But that gives me a start. The other thing I want to do, I have some of these really beautiful white rocks that I collected on one of my favorite Nova Scotia beaches. I'm going to put some of those in place on the bottom. I always like to add quite a bit of weight on the bottom. And I have a few of my favorite pebbles from PEI. I've got a couple of little rocks here with holes in them, hagstones. Often like to add a few of those for good luck. Some white stones, and I'll probably put in a couple of shells as well. I have one of these moon snail shells. I just love those. I pick them up whenever I see them. I don't find them that often, but definitely want to put one of those in this piece. I like to put those along the bottom so you can really see the moon snail. Another little PEI rock, so I'll add some weight along the bottom there. So now I'm going to grab my tray of small browns, And I'll make a couple of stems going up on either side, kind of like blades of grass with the brown sea glass. And this is not to have a flower at the end of them, but just to represent a little bit of a few little blades of grass. And this is where you can see there's a real advantage to having your sea glass sorted. So I have a tray with larger brown on them, and then when I want smaller brown, I just grab my small browns. I have to be conscious of the theme that I'm doing here as well, because I have 2 more panes of glass to fill in, and this is going to, although each pane I think should be able to stand on its own, the 3 of them are going to read together by the time I get it done. So to fill in the background, I think I'll come down with a few more flowers and then maybe put some flowy stuff at the bottom, all filled in with white and aqua and very light colors, maybe a bit more green. So I filled in a few more flowers here, and I'd like to put in some green leaves. So it's all been flowers, but time for a little bit of greenery. So I'm going to put in a few there. I think I'll put in a few down here. And maybe a few over here. A few kind of, use some of my large green pieces to just create a bit more greenery and a bit more interest here. And I put in a flower here that's a bit different, so it's not sea glass, it's sea pottery. So that adds another little bit of interest. And I think I'd like to put in a few flowing line type things that kind of run through here. And then whatever's left over after that, I'm going to fill in with white. So I'm using some aqua pieces here to add just a bit of flowing lines. So it's not all flowers. You need a little bit of difference from the flowers. I also might take a few of these brown strips up a little bit higher. Now I think I have enough color at the bottom, and I think I'll just fill in the rest of what's left with white, because I do want a little bit more color towards the bottom, but not too much, because I really am enjoying this as a fairly light colored piece. It's going to be in my bathroom where there's no windows, so I don't want the whole piece to be overly dark. So lots of white sea glass I think is going to work really well in this overall piece. So now I've got all this pane of glass filled in with sea glass. Lots and lots of flowers, a variety of flower centers, and the one main flower up towards the top. So that's part 1 in this 3-part series to complete a flower garden on this 3-pane window. So thanks so much for joining me for this video. Be sure to tune in for my next 2 videos when I'll show you how I fill in the other 2 panes of glass and get this whole window complete.